The most dangerous compliment a person can receive is, "You are so calm." Dangerous, because it rewards a behaviour without asking what drives it. A person who stays still while the room erupts gets admired, gets promoted, gets called strong. Nobody stops to ask why. Nobody checks whether the calm is a choice or a disconnection, whether the brain is regulating the storm or simply refusing to acknowledge that the storm exists. These two look identical from the outside. From the inside, one is the most advanced skill a human nervous system can develop. The other is a slow, invisible collapse. And confusing them is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make about themselves. Last week we ended on sensitivity, the amplifier that turns up volume on everything. Today is the opposite pole, people whose volume knob appears to be at 0. The ones who sit through confrontation without flinching, absorb bad news without reaction, navigate crisis as if they are reading a weather report about someone else's city. Culture celebrates this. Stoicism is a billion-dollar brand. Keep calm and carry on sold more merchandise than almost any phrase in modern history. The assumption underneath is clear. Calm equals control, control equals strength, strength equals value. The neuroscience says something less comfortable. James Gross, a psychology professor at Stanford, has spent over 2 decades mapping how humans regulate emotions. His process model, first published in 1998, and refined through dozens of studies, identifies 2 fundamentally different strategies. The first is cognitive reappraisal. The brain encounters a threatening stimulus, a provocation, an insult, a crisis. And the prefrontal cortex intervenes before the emotional response fully forms. It reframes the situation, it adds context, it reinterprets the signal. The amygdala fires, but the prefrontal cortex catches the signal, processes it, and generates a modulated response. The emotion is felt, understood, and expressed in a calibrated way. The person appears calm because they have genuinely processed the threat and chosen how to respond. This is regulation. It is a skill. It takes years to develop, and it leaves the nervous system intact. The second strategy looks exactly the same from the outside. Expressive suppression. The amygdala fires. The emotion forms fully. The body begins to mobilize. Heart rate rises. Cortisol spikes. Muscles tense. And then the prefrontal cortex does not reframe the emotion. It blocks the expression. The signal gets trapped. The face stays neutral. The voice stays even. The body absorbs the full physiological cost of the emotion, while the surface shows nothing. Roberts and Huck colleagues demonstrated in 2008 that people who habitually use suppression show elevated cardiovascular stress responses even during seemingly calm interactions. The blood pressure rises, the heart works harder, the cortisol stays in circulation longer. The body is running a full emergency response behind a wall of composure. From the outside the calm, from the inside a system paying a tax it never agreed to. And here is what makes this genuinely dangerous. Suppression works. In the short term it works beautifully. The meeting goes smoothly, the confrontation ends without escalation, the crisis gets managed, the person gets praised, and praise is reinforcement. The brain learns. Suppression produces social reward. Stay calm, get promoted. Stay calm, get admired. Stay calm, get told you're strong. And so the pattern deepens. Each cycle strengthens the suppressive pathway and weakens the brain's capacity to feel the emotion in the first place. Over years, over decades, this produces something that psychiatrist Peter Sifnios first named in 1973 alexithymia. From the Greek, without words for emotions. Not a disorder in the clinical sense, a condition, a state where the person has suppressed so consistently for so long that they have lost the ability to identify what they feel. Ask them what is wrong and they will say nothing, not because they are lying, because the system that connects the emotional signal to the conscious label has atrophied from disuse. They know something is happening inside. They sense a disturbance, a pressure, a vague heaviness, but they cannot name it, describe it, or connect it to the event that caused it. The emotion exists, the language for it does not, and without language there is no processing. Without processing there is no resolution. The emotion does not disappear, it stays in the body. Lam and colleagues showed in 2009 that chronic suppression correlates with elevated baseline cortisol, not during stressful events, but at rest. The body carries the unprocessed emotion as a permanent physiological load. Which brings us to the paradox that nobody wants to hear. The person in the room who everybody admires for their calm might be running one of two completely different programs. Program 1, genuine regulation. The prefrontal cortex catches the signal early, reframes it, generates a measured response. The emotion is processed. The body returns to baseline. The calm is real, earned, and sustainable. Program 2, suppression masquerading as strength. The emotion forms fully, the body mobilizes, and the expression gets blocked. The face stays flat, the praise comes. And the cortisol never leaves. The calm is a performance, and the audience, including the performer, has no idea. This matters because the cost is not abstract. It is clinical. Chronic suppression is linked to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, higher rates of depression, not from feeling too much, but from expressing too little. The body was not built to absorb every emotional signal without release. It was built to feel, process, and discharge. When the discharge valve gets sealed, when a person learns that showing emotion is weakness, that vulnerability is exposure, that the correct response to pain is composure, the pressure builds with nowhere to go, and the collapse where, whoa, when it comes, does not look like an explosion. It looks like exhaustion, chronic fatigue, numbness, a person who is technically functional but cannot remember the last time that they felt something fully. Not sadness, not joy, just a low hum of nothing, where the signal used to be. One question separates the two circuits, and it is not complicated. When something stressful happens and you remain calm, what do you feel afterward? If the answer is clarity, a sense that you processed the event, understood it, and moved through it, that is regulation. The prefrontal cortex did its work. The system is clean. If the answer is nothing, a blank, a flatness, a vague sense that something happened, but you cannot locate the emotional residue, that is suppression. The emotion was blocked, not processed, and the body is holding the receipt. The point is not to become more emotional, not to lose composure. The point is to ask whether the composure is a window or a wall. A window lets you see clearly. A wall blocks the view and calls it peace. Your nervous system knows the difference. The question is whether you are willing to check. On Wednesday, the heaviest topic of the month, people who have been through too much. The mechanism behind their apparent strength has a name in neuroscience, and it is not resilience. It is something that looks like resilience from the outside and operates like a wound from the inside. That one goes deep.